Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today we're going to be discussing Citizen Sleeper, an Xbox Live Game Pass game that we paid money for. And joining me, as always, to discuss all things Cyberpunk and especially mushrooms, Pete Busby. Hello, Pete.
Hey. Always excited to talk about Cyberpunk, anti-capitalist propaganda, fungi. It's all incredible. But this week's fun fact is about tortoises, of course.
Yay!
Land turtles. So I love tortoises as much as the next guy. That's why this fun fact is so sad.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah. Apparently tortoises have incredibly small brains. Like they just like barely do anything, right? So I'm quoting from Wikipedia here, which it has 3 citations. So I'm going to count this as good. But I see everybody mentioning the same citations, so just bear that in mind. But here it is.
I swear if this doesn't check out, you're off the show.
It's going to check out, trust me. I take my fun facts incredibly seriously. In the 17th century, Francesco Redi performed an experiment that involved removing the brain of a land tortoise, which then proceeded to live 6 months. Freshwater tortoises, when subjected to the same experiment, continued similarly, but do not live so long. There's one more bit. Reddy also cut the head off a tortoise entirely, and it lived for 23 days. So, 1, people in the 17th century messed up. We already knew this. But 2, apparently a tortoise can live for 6 months without its brain. That's insane.
Does it just eat by accident?
I guess there's like so much in its other nerves, like in the stem or whatever, like the tortoise spinal cord, that it just doesn't need a brain. I have no idea.
So it like the brainstem is like water, food, and the tortoise is like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah, like
and
I'm still a tortoise, I guess.
I mean, reptiles don't need to eat or drink very much. They're very efficient. So the idea of a tortoise with no ability to consume anything surviving for a good long while makes sense.
Now I'm worried that like tortoises don't have to eat for like 6 months, and it's just like sat there.
I mean, they don't. There are tortoises in places that freeze. They don't just die. You know, they go into hibernation and they survive.
These are all like I tried to look it up, and these are all like how to care for your pet tortoise. That's not really like what I'm looking for right now. But yeah, apparently they can go 6 months without brains.
That's horrifying. All right. Joining me also, as always, to discuss all things video games, Mistress of Games, M. Palladino. Hi, M.
Hello. I'm on my 7th month without a brain, so take that, tortoises.
Losers.
Haha.
7 months without a brain. No one seems to have noticed yet.
Get on my level. Anyway, we played a game. I picked it. It was good. We'll talk about it.
It was good. Yes. So before we discuss Citizen Sleeper, as always, a reminder that you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, which will get you access to our Discord. And we're also doing our usual reminder. If you're in a position to do so, please do donate to the National Network of Abortion Funds. Reproductive health in the U.S. is still real messed up, y'all. So the Patreon, if you were to subscribe, and we do have new folks on the Patreon, so thank you everyone who's been helping out and chipping in. You would get access to our Discord. You get to pick a game for the Off the Deep End crew to play in their slush pile of games. We are a scant few patrons away from having to play Sonic 06, people. I'm sorry to tell you this.
How far away are we?
We're not that many people. It's like it's single digits.
Any day now.
We're targeting 30 people, and then we're gonna have to play that game. And I believe we're in the mid to high 20s. So you could be the person who makes us play Sonic 06. But before that, we have the Discord and our usual Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. This week on the Discord, let's see, what is going on in this Discord?
My computer exploded.
Yeah, Gino's computer died, as
Woo!
you might have
Good
heard
work.
if you listened to our last episode, because it had some sounds going on in that episode.
Yeah, I apologize. And if I have sounds in this episode, that is why I have to use a phone. But the Discord has helped me pick out parts to make a new PC. So I'll be assembling the PC on the Discord probably in a few days. And if you're listening to this, I might have already done it.
So we'll see how our computer assembly skills are as a group.
I just anticipate people yelling at me, just like, no, not like that. And I'm just going to get really self-conscious.
You're doing it wrong. That doesn't go there, that goes there.
Are you freed of Marvel Snap?
So Marvel Snap has pools of cards, and the biggest one and the longest one is Pool 3, and I finally got to the end of my collection of Pool 3 cards. And at that moment I was like, yes, I've absolved it. I'm free. And then I started to play it again. So
Oh, you fool.
yeah. Well, I went on the Discord and I said, I did it. I've completed this. And then people were like, looks like you're not done though. Because it says 187 out of 201. I was like, but those are so hard to get. And then they were like, looks like you're not done though.
Guess you're not a real gamer.
Yeah. I'm less in the mines than I was. Also, for the second time, I've had someone go, hey, if you want a game to play, have you heard of Marvel Snap? And I got to be like, have I heard of it? Look at this. And then I show them I'm in the 3000s in my collection level. They're like, oh, whoa.
I'm sorry for you and your family.
Yeah. But I'm slowly coming off of it. My new game is Arknights, though, which is...
Is it a card game?
No, it's like what would I even call it? Like a tower defense game with a bunch of anime people. And it's on the phone, and it's also on my computer. And so if I play it on the computer, I can then go to my phone and play it on there. So I'm wired into that now.
I didn't know that they allowed people to make tower defense games in 2023.
Yeah, not after Final Fantasy, 15 failed tower defense game?
Or the great tower defense heyday of the the late aughts, early 2010s.
It definitely feels like something I haven't seen in a while, which is probably why I'm like, ooh, look at this. It's all new.
Ooh, I love defending things with towers.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. I'm having fun, so that's all that counts. Other than that, I had a Kickstarter going on in the tabletop section.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
It went well.
Tell us about your Kickstarter.
So I'm working at Outland Games. I'm doing editing and proofing of books and such. And one of our projects that I worked on was on Kickstarter. It's over now, so I can't direct you to it. It was Ocarus, the Crescent City. It earned $827 out of $300 that we asked for.
Nice.
Yeah.
Stretch goals.
Yeah, well, we didn't have any. But if we did, it would have hit some.
Woo!
And I'm prepping
Hooray for modest goals and hitting them.
Yeah. I'm prepping for another Kickstarter coming up, which should be coming out like Thursday. So it's too soon to mention it now because it doesn't exist yet. But I'm going to post that up when it's up. and I'll tell you about it next time. And hopefully there will be time to back it. Because this game is actually, I worked really hard on it, and I'm very proud of it. Look for that in the
Good.
Discord.
Yeah, as you should be.
Yeah. And look for that on the, we could add a link on the podcast feed for those who want to play cool RPGs.
Yeah, we should do that.
We totally can. All right. So I think that's pretty much the Discord report that the NBA season continues apace. We are continuing to have.
I'm back on top, baby.
Yep, and the Fantasy League M is back on top.
I was wallowing in third place for a while, and now I'm in first place by a lot.
Well, you're in first place by a lot because you have 11 more games played than me.
Yes, that's what you always say, but...
Get good, Gino. Stop making excuses.
I was in first yesterday.
All of your guys should be playing every game that they are in. That's the strategy, and I'm sticking to it.
That's the strategy. And there's no downside to this.
I'll have repercussions at the end of this season, but we're not there yet.
The end of the season's in like a week.
Yeah, that's a problem
like
for
2
later.
weeks.
Don't worry about that.
It's like a month. It's like a month left, but there's only like 14 games left. So if you've been burning hot, you will run out of games at some positions in the next few weeks, in the next week or two.
If I asked you how many games were in an NBA season, could you answer me?
I know there's 82 games that you can play. Oh, is that right?
Work.
Yeah,
that's the number. That's why it's 82.
Yeah, they didn't just pick one.
So how do I go over? Oh, because I assigned too many guys.
Yeah, one player will play 82 games. If you platoon 3 players, if you platoon 3 players so that someone's playing every single day, you will burn through it faster.
These things happen.
Mistakes were made.
But I mean, I'm also hemorrhaging because my 2-star players are LeBron James and Ja Morant, who LeBron got hurt and
Ja's spiritually hurt.
Had some trouble, shall we say?
Sure.
Yeah, he you know how in like Metal Gear Solid you can defeat an enemy by taking their health to 0 or their stamina to 0? I feel like his stamina went to 0, and this is what happened. He lost to the Nuggets, and then his constitution meter hit the bottom, and then you end up at Shotgun Willie's in Denver spending $50,000 on strippers, and then post a video of yourself with a gun on Instagram Live. And then you have to go to Florida to get well.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's where he is right now. What a bleak sentence. We send him to Florida to find himself.
That's like when my parents sent my dogs to the farm. It's like,
yes.
He's not coming back.
Yes, Florida is the farm up state of states.
My parents insist they really did that, though. There was a farm. I met a lady from the farm.
That's not real. That's not a real woman. You go inside that barn, it's not a barn. It's a Potemkin farm.
To this day, my mother insists it really happened, but who knows?
That just makes me think of, there was a person who tried to make his kids believe that that Santa was real well into their 20s by staging elaborate Santa setups to convince them that it was real, and then once they found out that he was staging it for their entire lives, they never trusted him again, and it ruined their sense of self. Yeah, I'm not saying your mom's doing this to you.
Gaslit for decades.
But I'm not saying that.
Well,
I'm saying however you feel about it, M, is fine. But yes, go either way.
I mean, that was also 20 years ago, so...
Yeah, I would also say don't go to the farm as an adult. Just accept what your childhood memory of the farm was.
Yeah.
All right, so my shout-out of the week, this week, I'm not sure which thing to shout out. I mean, do I go with the most basic thing? Well, yeah, the computer parts. Big shout-outs to the people who helped me on the computer parts. But The Last of Us show is really good, folks. I mean, it does me no pleasure to tell you this. I didn't want to like it. I promise.
It's pretty
I played
good.
the game. I played the game so many years ago, and I was like, "This game's look at the sad dad. It's fine. Like it's a well told story. You can go back. It was like our third podcast 7 years ago or whatever. But we liked that game, but I didn't think I needed to hear that story again. And boy, oh boy, they did a much better job making it a show. They got rid of the parts that you don't like about The Last of Us, which is the playing part. I don't think people like scavenging through every single drawer trying to make knives and Molotovs. And
No, I
they
didn't.
just exactly they just cut to the story part, and they give story and backstory to characters who either did not exist in the game or were barely characters in the game. Like they flesh out characters a ton. Like the best episode of the show so far, in my opinion, is episode 3. And episode 3 entirely centers a character who was a throwaway joke in the game. So I would recommend, if you have access to HBO or other ways to watch things that are on HBO, check it out. It's a really good show.
Can I?
Yep.
No, I want to do my own shout out. So you finish yours first.
No, that's it. That's all. I'm just going to go with the really basic option. It's a good show. I recommend it if you can check it out.
I want to do a quick one.
Go for it.
Nice. So I'd like to give a shout out to the only Best Picture winner I've ever seen in theaters. The incredible, wonderful, Everything Everywhere All at Once. A historic moment at the Oscars and an amazing movie to boot. I would immediately go see it if you haven't.
That is a past shout out of mine. See?
I forgot. I blew it.
No, it's fine. You see, people? I'm co-signed by the
stands
Oscars. People you can trust who have never gotten anything wrong. The
Never
Oscars.
steered us wrong.
I thought it was pretty good. It was alright. Did it win all
And
the
then
awards?
co-signs it too.
Did
It won
win?
almost every award.
Yeah, because
Like 7, 8 ton.
I couldn't remember anything else that came out in the last year. Probably because I wasn't going to the movies very much.
Top Gun's the only one. I didn't even see it. I just know it exists. I have no interest in that war propaganda.
Yeah, me either.
I watched Elvis as a goof because my wife wanted to watch a Oscar movie last weekend before the Oscars, and I was like, most of these seem miserable, but I've heard Elvis is just a man. Did you hear the story of what happened to the man who plays Elvis in Elvis?
Oh my God, he's a lunatic.
What? Who?
He can't. So he had to do the Elvis accent, right?
Uh-huh.
He was
it's
prepping
Elvis.
for like 3 years to do this movie.
Yes. So he can't stop sounding like Elvis. He trained himself so much to do the accent that he can't stop doing the accent. He doesn't
Okay,
realize
shut
that
up.
he's doing an accent anymore.
Mhm.
He's a single-use actor.
So he says.
He can no longer be anyone but Elvis, so we got
No,
to make
so
a
like he's in,
whole lot of Elvis things really quick.
I'm pretty sure he's in the next Dune movie or whatever, and he's just gonna like be Elvis in Dune. Hubba hubba. Look at that big sandworm.
Yeah, and then Tom Hanks is abominable in that film.
Is he?
Just terrible.
I saw the
Just-
like prosthetics he was wearing, and I was
Wait.
like, I hope he's good.
In what sense? A bad person, or he is not doing a good job acting?
Both.
Both. His
No.
character is like Elvis's shitty manager who's supposed to be Dutch,
Uh-huh.
and Tom Hanks's accent is all over the fucking place.
Okay.
And
He's got like a
Uh,
weird, like the admiral or like colonel or something, like some
He's the colonel.
unsavory. The colonel, yeah, an unsavory
Yes.
nickname that lets you know the sort of character he's going to be.
Gotcha.
yes, but his accent is just all over the place. It ain't Dutch. Um, and he's just the movie centers him too, so it's like really awkward. It's like a biopic about the least interesting person in Elvis's life in many ways. The movie's just the most weirdly fucking paced thing I've ever seen. Of course it's an Oscar movie, so it's almost 3 hours long. The first hour and a half feels like it's basic. Have either of you watched Walk Hard?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen Walk Hard.
Long time ago.
Yeah, it's basically Walk Hard for like the first hour and a half,
but
like,
not like ironic.
but not ironic.
Gotcha.
Like it's like Elvis was there, and then he got into blues, and then he moved from blues to rock, and then times were a changing, and then he got addicted to drugs. Like
he got
it's
really
just
into racquetball.
yes, exactly. And then he was like, "Oh man, I've got access to a budget now. Now I want 100 didgeridoos."
Like, check out this karate I learned.
Yes, and then it becomes way slower for like the last hour and a half, and it's just like, hey, what if we just focused a lot on Elvis just falling apart in Vegas? Just a lot.
It was a weird choice for Tom Hanks too, because he already played a movie producer in an incredible movie, That Thing You Do.
Yes, and yeah, he goofed. So yeah, don't watch Elvis unless maybe do drugs and watch Elvis. I don't know.
I have one more question about Elvis.
Yes,
we can move on.
Go for it. Yes.
Does it end with him dying on the toilet?
No, it ends with him getting on a plane and then cut to and then Elvis changed the
died.
world. Elvis returned to his home planet.
I've got one more follow-up question as well. Does it get into his very strange relationship with his mother?
Yes, it does. It gets into his very strange relationship with his mother.
His wives that are identical to his mother?
They don't highlight that part that much. They also don't really highlight the fact that he met his wife when she was like 14.
14? Yeah, it's way under.
Yeah, they don't highlight her age. Weirdly enough, they get her to be played by an actress who seems to be of age.
Weird
to make it less weird. But yeah, they get into some of that stuff, but not in the way that like someone who's critical of it would. And I forgot one other thing on the Discord was we watched a movie we did a Discord movie watch.
Oh yeah.
Last week we watched not Twin Snake Encounter, Twin Dragon Encounter, which is not a good kung fu movie, but we watched it.
I didn't even hear about this.
It's two Irish Canadian martial artists.
Say no more. I'm sold.
Who study kung fu, who decided to make a movie which appears to have just taken place in a public park.
Hell yeah.
And they just recorded themselves. It's the first Canadian direct-to-video kung fu movie.
There's a very known thing in communications where like saying you're new or the best is like one of the best things you can do for marketing. And they say like just make your thing narrower and narrower until you can say we're the best. That's really what they did here.
Oh yes, and yes, they very much like we are the first Canadian kung fu VHS tape, and our follow-up movie was the first Canadian theatrical kung fu movie. It's very narrow casted, but if you want a good time, it's available on YouTube. You can just find Twin Snake Encounter. If I need to sell it to you, this is how I would sell it. They recorded a song, "Fight for Your Right to Fight," which is the title song of the movie. I believe by Billy Butt was the name of the person who recorded it. They used the song 3 to 4 separate times in the film.
Hell yeah. That's a
for
mark of
different
quality.
montages. Yeah, they're like, look, we've got one good song, "Fight for the Right to Fight." Play it. So yeah, on the Discord we have movie nights now.
They've got at
what
least
a weird thing
three.
we built.
At least 3 movies.
Yes, it's a thing. I wouldn't recommend reading the backstory of these people. It gets weird. But yeah, Citizen Sleeper is the game we're talking about this week.
Let's talk about a game.
Oh right,
You guys want to talk about a game?
Might as well.
Tell me about Citizen Sleeper.
I forgot why we were here. Citizen Sleeper is a game where you are playing a robot that has a human mind in it, and you were contracted to a corporation who paid for your augmentation into a robot, and then it fucking sucked because this is a cyberpunk dystopian future in space, and so you escape and you end up on the Eye, which is a space station where you are running from your past and trying to start a new life. And so you are doing little odd jobs. You're going to use some dice to complete missions, and it's a little dismal at times, but I think there's some silver linings to it.
Yeah. So your sleeper is basically it's a person who has contracted to have their mind copied into a robot body. And then their human body is like put on ice basically
Mm-hmm.
for some duration of time.
Are they still alive somewhere, or are they just like they die
Yes.
and then you put the brain into a body?
No. So what happens is the company like creates a copy of the consciousness, let's say, and uploads it into this android. And then while the android's alive and working, the original person goes to sleep. Because at the end, sleeper's like, oh, they'll be asleep until I'm found and disposed of. So once the android has sort of run its lifespan, done its work, they scrap it, bring that person, the sleeper, well, I guess the sleeper's a robot. The original person wakes back up, presumably they pay them, and they go on with their lives.
So basically it's like indentured servitude, but to
Yes.
get around the implications of slavery, they're like, look, it's not really you.
Mhm.
It's this robot copy of you that's working in your place.
Yeah, the premise is it's a future where sentient AIs have been outlawed, but they can get around it because it's technically not an AI. It's a copy of a person. That's like the idea.
Yeah, and your character, the sleeper, is basically sentient because it's a copy of a being that was sentient, and
Mhm.
so the idea of working until you fall apart, and then this other person who is based on you, you are based on, but isn't you. Waking up is no, it's cold comfort, right? Like
Yes.
the consciousness that is the android goes away the second the person
It's-
who's in the sleep wakes up.
Honestly, it's more or less Severance, but it's not like a night and day cycle. It's a multi-year
Spoilers.
sort of thing.
I haven't watched all of Severance.
I mean, the premise of Severance is just there's a work person
Oh, yeah.
and a not work person. That's like the opening of
That's
the first
true.
episode.
That's pretty early on. Okay.
Spoilers for the first 5 minutes of Severance. Sorry. But yeah, so like that's the premise, and the game starts with your sleeper escaping on basically a shipping container that gets to the eye. You were with a bunch of other sleepers that were trying to run away, and it appears that you're the only one who survived to make it to the eye. You're in a bad way, and when you get there, you basically have one option: like someone finds you in the shipping container, gives you lets you stay in the shipping container to sleep, and then puts you to work, clearing out like an old junkyard, basically. And the gameplay, as M said, it's inspired by tabletop rules. So every day or cycle, technically, every cycle in Citizen Sleeper, you roll a certain number of dice die, which is the
Yeah.
plural.
Die.
Die. Yeah.
Yes. Dice is
A certain number of a certain number of die. Yes, a certain number of dices.
Dyson.
And carry on.
Depending on so your sleeper is like slowly falling apart, and depending on how much health you have, how much you've eaten, like how good your condition is, you roll a certain number of die. And at the beginning of the day, you will have these die to input into actions. So like going to work, you will have an action that will be like, do work. If you have a 6, it's a critical success. You will always get a positive outcome. If you have a 5, you will have a 50% chance of a neutral outcome and a 50% chance of a positive outcome. If you have a 3 or a 4, you have a 25% chance of a negative outcome, 50% neutral, and then 25% positive. And then if you have a 1 or a 2, you have a 50% chance of a negative outcome and a 50% chance of a neutral outcome. So you basically want to be employing these die in the most efficient ways possible, right? Like there's some actions that are dangerous. And so if you fail them, if you get a negative outcome, they might damage your condition. They might drain your energy. So there are negative ramifications for coming up negative. there are some activities that are like safe. So even if you fail them, you'll just get less stuff. Maybe you'll get less money. Maybe you'll get less of a resource that you're trying to, acquire. But there's no damage to you. And so you're trying to basically partition out your dice in the most efficacious way, right? To achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. And kind of as the game continues, you're going to get access to more and more people, more and more activities, and there'll be, now it's resource management, right? You got 10 things to do. You've only got enough die to do 3 of them. Which ones do you prioritize? And how do you prioritize them? And that's kind of the crux of the gameplay loop. Em, what did you think as a tabletop designer? How did you think of this game and its use of dice?
So if you played Beam Saber, this is a game that is pretty close to that sort of system. It uses clocks to measure a lot of the time passing events, which is straight out of like Beam Saber is actually a Powered by the Apocalypse, or is it? Hold on, let me check. I don't want to get this wrong. I'll lose my street cred.
Oh no!
Wait.
We have so much.
It's Forged in the Dark. Forged in the Dark. Forged in the Dark games basically use D6s. They also employ these clocks, which, like, as you spend your actions during downtime and stuff like that, you can progress these clocks in order to make things happen in the world that wouldn't normally happen in game rules. It's the best way to like break the game, basically, is to have a long-term project. In Citizen Sleeper, it's much the same. All of the long-term things, like if you have a contact and they need to like go off and do something, it'll be measured by a clock. That's going to be one of your primary like things to base your actions on. So if you're waiting on a clock to fill, you'll go and do something else. If you have clocks that have filled, there will usually be a event that you have to see before you go to sleep and reset the cycle. So it's basically managing all of the different stories along the way, gaining, is it credits in this game? It's always something different.
Cryo? Crypto?
Cryo,
yeah. Which is the money. There's also the stabilizer, which is, this is something I wanted to touch on, actually.
I would love to talk about the stabilizer.
Yeah. So,
can we do that now?
Yeah, Pete, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, why not? Let's talk about
stabilizer. Sure. I want to talk about something in capitalistic theory. So this might not tie into your point, but the stabilizer is basically a mechanic where your sleeper is falling apart. So the corporation put this system in place so you basically can't get too far. So the way it basically impinges upon gameplay is that as your condition breaks down, you get fewer and fewer dice. So it starts at 6. Over time, you get 5, 4, so on and so forth, and you need to replenish it to increase your dice.
Yeah, and the story explanation is that your sleeper's body was always designed to do work, right? The idea of you running away was not supposed to be supported. So you are built in with planned obsolescence. Your sleeper, and the only manufacturer of the stabilizer is this evil corporation. Mm-hmm. So you're basically trapped in servitude. There's supposed to be no escape. If you escape, your body will just break down anyway.
This was in Jurassic Park. This was the dinosaurs had a lysine dependency, which is what I was thinking of while I was playing this game. It's like if they get off the island, then they'll die because they can't get this naturally. Get that lysine. Yeah. We have to give them supplements because it'll be really hard to find. But then life finds a way, which it also does in this game.
So this ties into one of my favorite books of all time. It's called One Dimensional Man by this guy Herbert Marcuse. He was an anti-capitalist theorist. It came out in the 60s. It's a great book, still very prescient. You should read it. But his whole point is about how capitalism creates needs in us in order to maintain our dependency. So sort of, we don't need fancy shoes and, fast cars and, cool looking wigs, whatever. But capitalism makes us think we do. So then we need to keep making money so we can earn this and earn this. And this is just sort of the logical extension of that. Like this takes technology for creating false needs and says in the future, we won't have to create false needs. We can just create real needs. And then people are really stuck. It's a very dystopian extension of sort of modern marketing.
Yeah, for sure. And the ramifications in the story for your character are pretty dire. Like just trying to find, I mean, there's real pressure when you first start hitting your constitution limit, like when your condition starts breaking down and all of a sudden you don't have access to a lot of actions, you can feel the world getting smaller around you. Like if you can only do one thing a day or two things a day, cycle, the gameplay progress is like meaningfully hindered, and you will get a game over if your condition gets too low. So it's an interesting timer, and it presents you this problem, right, where you need to find some way to get the stabilizer. At first, there seems to be no source of it, and it seems like you're just going to die. But guess what? The game doesn't just let you die immediately into it.
It's 4 cycles. That's all you get.
Yeah, but if you play it really badly, I guess you could do that, but it seems hard. But yeah, like getting stabilizer and spinning the plates becomes important, right? So like every day, depending on whether you're eating or not and you have energy, the more full your stomach is, the less condition will go down. So you want to make sure you're eating like once or twice every cycle. That'll keep your energy up, which means you only lose 1 condition per cycle. But if you let yourself go hungry, I don't know how much you lose because I never let it get that low. Do you lose 2 blocks of condition?
I have no idea, honestly.
What's the penalty at? Did you see what the penalty was?
I think it's usually 2, like if you're towards the middle, and then it might go down as far as 3, but I don't think it goes much further than that.
Yeah, so like it hits you extra hard if you don't keep up your food. So you're spending cryo to buy food most of the time. You're also spending cryo to buy stabilizer. So you're cash strapped a lot. Though there's other currency too. Like you do get items that you can trade. So like scrap, for example, is an item that you can sell for money. You can also use it depending on what perks you get. And I think that's a good time to transition to the perk system. So at the beginning of the game, you get to pick between 3 archetypes of what kind of sleeper you are. I forget what the archetypes are named, but basically one of them is like a physical laborer, engineer. One of them is tech savvy, and one of them is like communications forward. And whichever one of those you pick, you will get a +1 to certain die rolls, and you will get a -1 to other die rolls, and you will get a starting passive ability. So those perks mean that if you're taking on an engineering activity, if you had a 4 and you were going to use a 4, that 4 becomes a 5 if you have a +1 to engineering. The -1 thing, same effect but opposite. So you end up basically, as you play the game, your sleeper gets drives, which are like life goals that your sleeper wants to achieve. And every time you achieve one, you get access to a perk. You get a +1 stat, basically, that you can spend on increasing your die rolls. You can unlock passives, like one of the passives, the engineering passive that I got when I started, let you restore a certain amount of energy just by kind of lying in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So you could spend a die roll to photosynthesize energy. So instead of eating and spending money, you could spend a die to get energy instead. Which was interesting. Did either of you pick a different starting job?
No, I picked the engineer as well, actually.
Mm-hmm. In my playthrough this time, I did the one where you photosynthesize. Last time, I believe I was the engineer. I don't know what the third one is. I think it was more like hacking, which we should also talk about how the hacking works in this game.
Yeah, the perk is you get double data.
Yes.
When you hack.
Which is more...
It's a good perk.
It's more situational, I think. there are some quests that require you to go into this like extranet sort of space, which is it's cool. It like inverts the screen,
Hmm.
and you can find people who are like agents of the factions that are in the world, and you can steal their data and then you sell it or you trade it in for something. I found like that one falls off pretty quick. So as far as the perks go, though, you're not like if you pick the engineer, you're always gonna stick to engineering stuff. It's all one skill tree, and it's got you can get +1s to all your roles, and then you get a talent, and then you can get
+2s.
+2s and another talent. I actually found that the perk tree is one of the weaker elements of the game. We'll talk about how the game sort of spirals towards the end, but I think a lot of it is to do with like having all of these extra abilities and also bonuses to your dice.
Yeah, because I mean, some of the problem is the perks are not evenly useful. Like photosynthesizing, as cool as it sounds, spending one of your limited actions to just get energy when you could just spend money to do that. Money is less limited than actions. So I never spent like you could spend if you spent a die getting working a job that gives you cryo, you will probably get enough money to buy the food that buy enough food to get energy and have some left over, as opposed to spending that die resting.
Yeah.
So like that's a pretty useless perk. Some of the perks are like every time you do this kind of action, you have a chance of just getting cryo for free. Or like every time you do this kind of action, you can just get a scrap for free.
Yeah. There's another one too where if your condition like approaches 0, you still get 2 dice to play with. And I mean, I'd never even let my condition get close to that low.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's one. If things went sideways, you'd get to still play the game, I guess. But like,
Probably just want to quit and start over.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, playing the game would become miserable if you only had 2 actions per cycle. And I just I don't really know how you're spending your resources that it ever comes to that.
I have no idea.
You have to really like mess up pretty badly in order to end up in a situation where you don't have the stabilizer to like the game basically gives you like 3 or 4 free stabilizers which can last you for like I don't know 20 cycles. So and by then you like will find a like
You'll find ways to get it.
yeah, you'll find an avenue. So it's really hard to mess up that badly. Like I used my stabilizer when I no longer had 3 dice to spend on things.
Exactly, same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and also like the pluses, what those mean in the skill trees is that once you've maxed out, and you can basically the first tier of things, so your +1s and your basic perks, those cost 1 skill point. The +2, I think, costs 2 skill points, and the second level perk costs 3. I might be reversing the second level perk and the +2.
So it's a first level perk and then a +1, and those are 1 and 2, and then there's the second level perk which is 2, and then to get a +2 it's 3.
Right.
And it's worth mentioning that drives are pretty long term. Like it takes a while for most.
It takes
of
a lot
to
of
fill
actions.
Up. Yeah.
And they're finite. You don't have infinite. You can't grind drives.
Right.
Like there's X amount in the game. Once you've gotten that drive accomplished, you get a point or you don't if you fail.
Yep. This is also straight out of Forged in the Dark. They use like a drive system. It's not tied to your leveling as much, but it does give you like basically a free pass to do one thing, which is pretty cool. So seeing it translated was interesting.
Yeah, so like the issue is once you've like you're probably going to get the +1s first for everything. Maybe you'll get a second level perk or a +2, before you complete every single +1 and every single level 1 perk. But once you've got +1s on everything and +2s on most things, then the worst die roll you can ever have is 3. And so all of a sudden, the worst outcome you can possibly get is 25% chance to fail, 50% to neutral, 25% for positive. And so all of a sudden, moving the game forward becomes trivial, right? Like anything, all of your 4s become 6s. You're just getting positive outcomes across the board. Like it just makes all of the outcome negative becomes an outcome that never happens or very rarely happens. And so now the equation becomes how quickly can I replenish my die, and less, what's the outcome going to be? Oh, I really need to be judicious about how I spend die. Like early in the game, they introduced the hacking mechanic that you mentioned earlier, Em. And the way that hacking works is instead of having, the different outcome types, it's asking for a specific die. So like you can only hack this person with a 1.
Yep. And usually it's really low, like 1s and
Yes.
2s for most of the regular ones, which is an excellent way of getting rid of those. Like that was a very
Exactly.
smart design decision on their part, because otherwise
How will we get people?
Yeah, you would just go to sleep if you had 1s because you didn't want to take a negative.
Exactly. Like in the early game when hitting a single negative is very dangerous, it gives you a safe outlet for those. So you don't, bust out early in the game. So in the early game, there's this interesting decision, right? Like, oh, will I use this 1 to hack or will I actually do another activity? And you use up all the hacking that's relevant maybe in the first hour or two. Like you don't hack much after the first few hours of the game. And once you're done hacking...
Yeah. If you do certain side stories, there's some more hacking, like I forget, I can't remember anyone's name anymore.
The Yadigan one.
Yeah, the Yadigan one, the one with
the Killer and Hunter.
Yeah, that we should talk about that one, because that's.
Well, yeah, we should talk about a lot of these things.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's not enough time in this show.
But yeah, I think the thing is towards the end of the game, right? Like hacking falls away. Most of your die rolls get very high. You eventually get limitless access to stabilizer, pretty much, and so there's no more tension anymore, and that kind of spirals out at the end of the game. I found that the game held up for maybe like 80 to 90% of its runtime. I thought the mechanics held up, and then the last 10% or so, it became rote repetition. Instead of actually having to think about how I was going to spend my resources, I was just like, all these resources are the same. It doesn't matter. I'm going to have maximum dice. Most of those dice will have the same number on them because I have +2. And so I'm just putting the coins in the machine. I was playing the UI more than I was playing the game. And I think that's usually that's a rough point to hit with a game, where you're spending more time navigating the UI and moving inside of this pretty cool looking space station. But, when moving around the space station's taking more time than making decisions, you've hit a bad point in your gameplay curve. Did you find you had a similar problem, Pete?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, eventually you can start to sort of like manufacture your own stabilizer even. And like I found at a certain point, like the main resources I needed was scrap. But that was mostly because I was trying to build my own apartment. Didn't really have that much payoff in the end, honestly. But that was just because I wanted an apartment.
But you get to pet a cat.
I do. That was the big payoff, honestly. But that's like, you're never in danger of failing once you've set a goal. The only thing that might happen is you now have like competing priorities and you just run out of cycles.
Yeah. So we've covered, I think, most of the gameplay. I think let's turn our attention now to the story and what I think is really the draw of this game. Like this game would have probably been fine if it was just a visual novel, honestly. Like there were multiple times where I was like, is this actually enhanced by the gameplay, or could it have just been, like Lady Killer in a Bind, and that would have been fine?
I mean, it would have needed more nudity to be Lady Killer in a Bind, but
that's true.
Did we?
But
Did we mention that this is up for a BAFTA for its story?
no, we didn't.
We did not.
Yeah, it's I can't find when that's gonna happen. Soon, I guess. It's coming.
We don't know.
Up. I don't know.
No one can tell the British when to give out their awards.
Yeah. Narrative is it's up for a narrative award. So if you want
That checks out.
if you want to get some good narrative, it's in here.
Yep. Check it out. So which characters did you enjoy spending your time with the most?
I have to look up everyone's name. Hold on.
You could say archetypes if you don't remember their names. A lot of people really fit into.
I liked Castor. He was the one who was playing whatever the space version of chess is. He seemed like a pretty cool dude, and he got much more interesting towards the end when I was doing the side reel quest line, I guess, whatever you'd call it.
Castor. I don't remember Castor.
You mean Castor? Yeah, you might not. Yeah, you could go whole games and never meet people.
Yeah, he's like he gets more in depth once you do the Yadigan storyline. He's like he sells you, I believe it's a ship mind or and he like plays a game of Go with you basically.
Yeah. He's like an information broker.
Yeah.
Huh. I did not actually. I think I might have encountered him once, like in someone else's plot line, but I don't think I met him on his own.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, I never bought a ship mine from Castor. Like I saw Castor's shop, but I never bought anything from it because I got the ability to manufacture ship mines,
right.
And he charged too much. So I was like, I'm not going to buy from you. I will build my own. Thank you very much. I built my own PC.
Yeah, he's good if you like aren't getting the things you need to build one of those, and if you just have a bunch of credits lying around, you could dump on them. Another character I want to talk about is Lem and Mina.
Sure, I spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah. Did you do that quest line, Gino?
That's the
side
guy who's trying. It's the little girl and her dad, and he's trying to get off of the ship.
Yep. There's a arc basically that's going to be setting out from the eye, and everyone wants to get off because it sucks here. So it's a guy and his adopted daughter, and you sort of work on the ship, and he's also working on the ship. So you babysit Mina while he is working. And then one of the more interesting turns the story takes is halfway through, the ship is complete, and they're like, we're going to do a raffle, basically.
A raffle.
And this is one of the only times...
Always sinister.
Yeah. This is one of the only
I've read
times
the lottery. I know how this works out.
When the game, it actually makes you fail a drive. Like, you have no choice. You have to fail this drive if you complete this quest. So you go to the lottery, and then they start talking about
your employee ID number or something, like all the official contractors,
and no one knows what they're talking about.
Except there's one dude wins and he cheers. I'm like, guy, like, you know the scam.
Read the
keep
room.
It to yourself.
Yeah. So basically, almost everyone who's working on this ship is working under the table, and so only official employees count for the raffle.
Right.
So almost no one who worked on this ship was actually entered in the raffle at all.
And so that goes sideways, and then eventually you can find a way to get onto the ship, and then you have to
Castor's
decide.
Involved here.
Yes.
That's how I met Castor.
Yeah, Castor will help out. It's interesting that if you don't meet him, he still shows up here.
That is weird.
Yeah, you ask him, like, who the heck are you? And then he's like, I'm interested in learning about the corporation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm a cool guy. I'll get you on that ship. Let me shoot you up with this cool information bug.
Yeah. Which probably seems out of nowhere if you didn't play that storyline.
It did. I was like, I don't trust you. Don't put this malware on me.
Yeah. So, and then at the end of it, you can like choose to go on the ship with Lem and Mina, and it's going to be like a generational
Decades.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you watch as Lem dies, and then Mina grows up and you die, and she takes care of you in your old age, and it's so sad.
It is. It's
Well,
super
yeah,
sad.
because that's why I didn't go.
Yeah.
So like the game gives you an option to go or not go, and I was like, wait, so I'm going to get on a ship where there's no stabilizer? I'm just going to die.
But I can
That's a
make
terrible option.
stabilizer here.
I can make stabilizer here. I have stabilizer, but over there I'm just going to die on a ship with no one coming in or out for 100 years.
Gino, did you agree to Castor's agreement or say no?
I said yes to his agreement, and then I
And then
reneged.
didn't get on.
Oh.
Does he
Yes.
say anything after that?
Yeah, he's like,
He's like, not cool, bro.
A little bit
No,
of a
he was
bitch
like,
move
I-
there, huh?
he said, like you, I, he hates the corporation. He has other ways of learning about it other than you, but you helped further his cause by doing something. Like he's like, uncool, but I got other ways of learning what I need to learn.
Gotcha.
I
So
wasn't
didn't need
relying
you in
on
the first
you.
place.
Yeah, basically.
Got it.
Yeah, my favorite plot line was probably the AI plot line.
Let's
So
talk
you-
about it.
You meet a vending machine.
That's a great sentence.
And the vending machine, you think, oh, I would like some chips. But then the vending machine starts talking to you through its fan, which is the coolest thing. So, like, it turns
So
out this vending
cool.
machine, there's an AI that has been trapped in this vending machine because the ship has anti-AI routines that are because AIs are illegal. So there are these routines that basically find sentient programming and then kill it. So this AI found a networked vending machine, uploaded itself onto the vending machine, and then killed the network connection so that nothing could come in and kill it. And so it basically manipulates the fan speed of like the cooler on the vending machine to make speech by spinning up and spinning down the fan. And it's cool when you talk to the vending machine because the sleeper is like the more questions you ask of the AI, the more tired it gets because of the exertion required, like the amount of power required just to spin the fan up enough to speak. So it like stops conversing with you at certain points because it just can't get up the energy to stay functioning and also make speech, which is it's fascinating, like the amount of limited processing power and how they explain it. But basically this AI tells you, hey, there's this rogue program on the network. We need to figure out where. First, you need to get a ship mined so that I can get off of this vending machine and onto a computer, basically. And then we're going to find out where this program lives and kill it so that I can be free again. And I really enjoyed also, Pete, do you remember how the AI explains to you how it got onto the vending machine in the first place?
Gosh. I don't.
So oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I remember how it got on the ship mine, and that was super cool.
Yeah, so when it gets onto the vending machine, it said, like, as an AI, there's so many bytes of programming that make up this AI. So to get it to fit on the memory of a vending machine, it had to kill and cut off parts of its programming to become less of itself so that it could fit in the memory slot of the vending machine. And so you can ask it, like, what did you lose of yourself when you got on this vending machine? And it's just like, I can't even know. I have no way of knowing what I used to be and who I used to be because I fit on a fucking toaster right now. I live on a toaster.
And then to get back on the ship mine, because there's like no outlet port as a vending machine, he has to like physically cut the like circuits into the like layers, these onion layers of the ship mine.
Yeah. So it's very cool. And then, you get into the software, there's this hunter program that's trying to kill you. You eventually, find it, you take it out, you find this killer program that, oh man, the encounter with the killer is so cool.
It's so cool. Can I explain?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
go for
please
it.
do.
Killer is a program that would basically be sicked on to programs that Hunter decided was aberrant, and Killer has been basically just without an eye. It's been without its eyes because it's been partitioned in a different sector of the station, and so it just like has been like a shark just like sweeping through this area, just like cutting parts away. And you see it, and it's like removed basically everything from itself because it's been finding problems with itself. This storyline is one of the most hardcore like science fiction stories I've seen in a while, and this is like, oh, this is so good. Like, I want to play this. I want to play this game like in tabletops.
Did y'all save the Killer or cut it down?
I think I saved it.
I killed it.
I think I saved it, but like the options are like the Hunter. The plan for the Hunter is to like make the Hunter realize that it is in fact an AI.
Yeah, it's a paradox basically.
Put it
and it gets stuck in you put it into a paradox, and then it gets stuck that way. Then the Killer, you can capture it or you can kill it. You can destroy it or you can like isolate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those are the options. If you isolate it, like your character basically says, even though it's mangled and damaged, there's a chance for redemption. Where there's life, it's worth trying to save it. What happens if you kill it?
It basically says like it was dead long ago. Like it had nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like the concept of like this AI that blinded itself because it thrashed around, it had no connection to the greater world, and then in its violence just thrashed around, cutting every node on the computer basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like the central mainframe of this station has been reduced to nothing because this AI has been running rampant, cutting every connection and destroying the software.
It's so cool because it says like by sheer chance, like out of, hundreds of thousands of just sweeps around this, it's cut every connection except for 3. And those are the last ones you need to sever to like close
Take
it off. Yeah. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's so good.
Yeah. That's very metal. That's very hardcore. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's like vintage sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean the extension of that is when this AI that was on the vending machine, its name is Navigator, and it comes back into its fullness now that it's on the network, and Navigator gives you this cipher that unlocks, like there are different sections of the eye. You start kind of in one section in the building area, then you can kind of move slowly but surely north, basically. Well, what is north on a ring station? To the other side, let's just say, the other side of the ring. You can start working your way towards more residential areas. There are 2 things that are gated by cost. So there's one gap that you need a ferry pass to cross, and that's an expensive ferry pass, so you probably won't get it till the mid-game. If you cross that, you end up at a commune, which it's an old-fashioned commune. They're farmers, they're hippies, they're living sustenance farming. They barter everything. Everyone shares everything. The second place is to go to like the center of the eye, the like middle section of the ring. There's an elevator to go up into the middle. That you need to buy a pass to go up on the elevator too. So once you go to the area with the commune, there's this large network that you can see. There's only one thing to hack, and the only way to hack it is with a cipher for, I think it's called the Green, or like the Aviary.
Greenway?
The Greenway, yeah. You need to get the Greenway cipher. And the Greenway cipher you get from Navigator. And once you get that, man, when you hack the Greenway, that's one of the coolest things in the game. Like the Greenway is the one lush grown out part of the whole game. And when you talk to the communists, and by that I mean like literally they live on a commune, which is an important distinction because like everyone in this game is a communist of a different one kind or another for the most
Pretty
part.
much.
So like these communists are like this section of the ship. We came over here and people told us not to go over here because the eye is this decrepit system. It doesn't have corporate backing anymore. All of the delicate systems that would keep a greenhouse running are going to fail, and so it's worthless to try and keep all of these farms going. And yet it ends up continuing to work, and they're wondering like, why the hell did this work? Why the hell is the system staying balanced? Like, what's keeping it going? Pete, did you want to reveal what is keeping the Greenway working?
It's the mushrooms. So like basically they've taken over and they've adjusted themselves based on their gardeners. So like when Sleeper plants a mushroom, it does one thing. When the other characters plant a mushroom, it does something else. So basically what happens is, much like in the forest, where this actually does happen, the mushrooms have formed a network in the same way that the computer networks operate on the other parts of the station.
Yeah, there's basically an
Very cool.
AI. There's an AI that has created dozens and dozens of AIs for all of the different animals and plants and things in the Greenway. And this networked mind is like controlling the adaptation of these plants. So like this is the way that you get access to stabilizer once people stop selling it to you. There are mushrooms that when you grow them make stabilizer. For other people, it would just make food. But basically all of the plants, like there's some plants that are adjusted to you so that if you eat them, they heal you more. And like the scientist at the commune's like, this mushroom would kill me, but it looks just like this other mushroom, which I grew and is super delicious to me. But because you grew it, it's built and adapted to you. And that's one of the other kind of potential endings of the game is you get offered the chance to break free of your body, basically, and become a free-floating AI in the Greenway. Did anyone take that out?
Nah, I got on the ship.
I did do this in a different playthrough, and this is another one of the coolest endings of the game, where basically you are given a seed at one point, way early on, and then you have to figure out where it gets to be planted, and then by doing the commune quests, you eventually find a place to plant it, and it grows into the uplink, the mind uplink shape.
Yep,
that
it grows into a computer interface basically that you can put on your head.
Really?
Yeah. It's like
that's so cool.
It's like the thing that made you a sleeper, except out of a plant, which is cool as shit. And then you use that, and you go in and you talk to the gardener, and the gardener is like, you can go back to your body that is decaying as we speak, or you can like release and just become one with the network. And it's like it's a pretty hard decision, because you can give up all of the friends you've made along the way and
become a sentient AI just flying around doing whatever you want on the net.
Yeah, become a crazy cyber thing. Or you can go back, and if you go back, it's like, oh, well, you only had one chance, so tough. But it was like
offer
really,
only good for one.
Yeah, it was really compelling, though. Like,
yeah, I also
all
chose not to do it.
Yeah, with all the trouble that you go through to get to this point, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of tired.
Did you? So I only got to just very briefly start this quest. In your playthroughs, did you ever finish the Bliss storyline?
I did, yeah.
I did also.
Oh, Gino, you did too. Cool. I'd like to know how that one ends. Yeah. So I only got to the part where Bliss asks you to be a business partner. She's basically an engineer who's struggling and asks you for investment. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But I never went back and gave her anything.
Oh, well. So Bliss is like trying to run a shop basically, and she's had some trouble with like exes stealing all her money and bad business decisions. And she sees you and is like, "You look like a competent sort. You want to help me?" And you can like pay to work there basically, and then you do a bunch of jobs. And is there an ending to this?
Yeah, so the first job you do, her ex steals your money, so you get
Yes.
nothing out of it. The
Is
second
that
job you
filter
do,
guy?
I don't think they name him.
No,
Okay,
yeah, it's not
something else.
specified.
The second job you do, you help out the commune, and they pay you in mushrooms. So you can't, they try to sell the mushrooms,
It
and
seems like you're gonna get screwed every single time you do this. But
yeah. And then the final one is like a really tight deadline, really hard to do. You basically need to be late game, and turn your full attention to it to, achieve the goal. But if you do, Bliss's business becomes very successful. And her final mission, is did you do the mercenary quest?
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that mercenary, after the outcome of the mercenary quest, and I feel like we shouldn't say every single quest because people
Yeah.
should check this game out.
It's true.
I'm trying not
The
to. But
outcome
there's
of-
so much to talk about.
Yeah. The outcome of the mercenary quest, at the end, the mercenary maybe thinks violence isn't so great. So if you complete the mercenary quest, that mercenary comes back and asks Bliss to take all the weapons off their ship, and turn it into a civilian ship. And so you help
Oh, right.
take all the weapons off the ship because you help build up the ship in the first place. So it's really fast to do it. And then you get an offer to go with Bliss and the mercenary to leave the eye.
Mhm.
Gotcha. That's a good offer.
And that's another ending.
Okay.
I
I mean, there are
turned
a
them
bunch
down
of
also.
there are a bunch of other ones. There's like a street gang you get involved with who might be more than they seem. There's stuff going on with Castor. There's bar stuff. There's other bounty hunters after you. I mean, there are a lot of quest lines we haven't mentioned that are.
Oh yeah,
definitely
I
worth
mean,
checking
did you hang out with the mushroom guy, the chef?
Which
Yeah,
oh,
Chef, he's super cool too.
great. Everybody in this game
Oh,
is great. There's
I
only,
love the chef's. The end of his story is so good.
Yeah. There's only one guy that fucking sucks. I want to talk about him briefly. I don't want to focus
Okay.
on him very long. Ethan's a fucking asshole. I hate
Which
that
one
Yeah.
guy.
is he? The bounty hunter?
He's the bounty
Yes.
hunter that gets sent after
He
you.
sucks.
He
He
sucks.
sucks.
He basically goes to a bar and is like, "You're
Pay
gonna
my
pay
tab."
my tab," and if you miss the tab, he comes and he tries to mess you up, and then he's just like a fumbling idiot kind of, and ends up like, I never completed his quest line because every time I forget like, oh, I owe that guy money, and then he's like, you fucked up now, and I'm like, who are you?
Whatever, Ethan.
Ethan, shut the fuck
Not even
up,
a good
Ethan.
bounty hunter name.
I mean, the thing that caused me to just lose track of the Ethan plotline was eventually you can. So he's tracking you with a tracker built into your body. You eventually get the ability to get that tracker removed if you
Yeah.
do the right side quest. And so I just got the tracker removed, and then
Yep.
Ethan's quest blipped off.
Yep. That's another way to accidentally end a drive early. Is if you complete that before you like pay off his tab or whatever. There's another guy who's coming after you, who he tells you about, and it's really bad, but also it's like a 40-step clock, so
Yeah,
it's gonna
forever.
take a while. But that's basically like the end game setup. So you gotta find a way to disable your tracker. There are like 3 ways to do that.
I don't know how you would have to really fuck up to have that timer hit.
If you're not focusing on like getting off the ring, or if you don't accidentally stumble into an ending where you like disable your tracker, like if you're doing quest lines, you'll eventually end up at one where you're good. So it's usually not a
and-
factor.
It just seems like there's not actually that much stuff to do. As long as you stay in good condition,
Yeah.
you will complete a quest line that gives you an out.
Yep.
Especially like there's one quest line that it tells you is like, this is the one to do if you want to disable your tracker.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, if you mainline that one, you'll disable your tracker.
You'll be good.
It's fine. Not a terribly interesting quest line, but it's good.
Yeah.
There's
So
just
as
a
I
lot
said
of stuff
before,
to do.
as I said before, I turned down all of the endings basically, because there's the post game content, which is DLC, free DLC that's been added to the game, which is about a series of refugees that have come to the Eye, and they are basically being held in a quarantine, because the bureaucrats who are in charge of the Eye, and I shouldn't say bureaucrats, like the engineers who are in charge of the Eye are socialists or communists themselves. Like they're basically a union,
Kind
like a
of.
big union, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's a literal commune, like hippie commune. Then there's the unionists, but like, sometimes unions are corrupt. So there's that group of like socialist communists. There's a like street gang, which is made up of like a series of collectives with a shadowy organization that eventually becomes like the optimum version of a street gang. If you do that quest line all the way down, where they're a benevolent street gang. So like all of the people on the Eye seem pretty chill by the end of it. They seem like they've got their heads on straight if you've been doing all of the side quests. And when you get to the refugee section, um, the so I went down this quest line at the very end of the game, and they told me you meet two folks who are trying to help out the refugees. They want to get food to them. They want to break the quarantine, bring them food, and make sure they have a better chance of surviving, and eventually get them onto the ship, onto the Eye. As you start doing the quest to help those refugees, you eventually get stopped by one of the people who works for like the science group, like the engineering group, and they say, "Hey, I know you're trying to help these refugees, but they're in quarantine because the Eye is a closed system that like barely can support the people that are on it. Like it's a spaceship, y'all.
Not unreasonable.
Yeah, it's a spaceship. We only have so much oxygen and food and water to support X number of people. We're already pushing it, and we don't know how many people are on these ships. So, like, adding a bunch of people to this closed system might tip our balance and kill all of us. So, like, can you leave them in quarantine?" And I was like, "Huh, that's a pretty reasonable ask."
Yeah.
And then the people who are trying to help out the refugees are basically like, people in positions of authority are inherently untrustworthy, and they are playing with these people's lives. And if you side with them, you can go fuck yourself, because they're lying about there being a problem. They just don't want to help, and you should want to help. And so you basically get given a choice where it's like, hey, this person from a faction that I've worked with, is telling me that this isn't, people coming over the border to the US. This is like a closed system with finite oxygen and water. And maybe we shouldn't just add thousands of people to it, without thinking about it. And then the other people are like, nah, you're a cop. If you think that's, if you think that's important, then you're a cop and we don't want your help.
Get out of here.
And,
You were being kind
Yeah.
of a fucking cop, though.
yeah. So I chose to say, hey, what if we actually listen to this person? They seem like they're being reasonable. One of the people goes basically, no justice, no peace, and then breaks all contact with you. And they go through with trying to deliver the goods without your help. And I hadn't done enough side quest stuff yet to make it so that mission would be successful. So she ended up trying to run food through a completely blockaded area with no support, and gets caught. She just gets fucking caught, and there's no food gets delivered. And when she gets caught, it turns out she was also sneaking guns to the refugees so that they could break in by any means possible. So yeah, I ended up feeling like, okay, that's good writing. Like
This
they tried to. Oh, go ahead.
is what I described as the "Are you a centrist?" test, and unfortunately, you failed.
Yep, I failed. Yep.
I would have blown up the system had I played the DLC. I would have been like, yeah, fucking cops. No, I don't trust them.
Yeah.
And the whole station would have imploded.
See, I was down to clown, so there are 2 episodes out right now. The last DLC episode is going to come out at the end of this month, actually. So we should have waited 2 more weeks to play this game, but
Damn it.
oh well. So when I was playing Flux, which is the first one, I was like, yeah, fuck it. It's not my problem. It's as they describe it, the system is probably going to break down in about 20 years anyway. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll help people today and we'll figure that out tomorrow. And then I didn't play Refuge because it wasn't out when I played the first one. Because I played the first one in November. So I was like, I don't think I need to play it again. And then, lo and behold, there was another thing tacked on. So
Yeah, and the part 2 is basically you talking. So regardless of what happens, you eventually get access to the refugee ships, and you basically find out their backstories. Is part 2. It's all just finding out their backstories.
Yeah.
No resolution.
I feel like this is where it really starts to get like you're either with us or against us. And so when you were deciding, like, when you were describing, rather, like, man, they really go hardcore. I was like, no, it seemed fine because I didn't play this part.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think that it's good writing that, if you help, I'm sure that you drop off the food. I don't know if there's guns if you help, or if they just put the guns there as a, like, look, you were right to not trust these people, so that you feel like you made the right choice either way, or you can feel justified in your choice either way. But it seems like regardless of the outcome of part 1, you're going to end up with part 2. And then part 3 afterwards. So yeah, I mean, Citizen Sleeper is real good, y'all. Like, the story's really good. You're gonna hit a wall at the end if you do like I did and constantly say no to an ending. You'll eventually hit the point where just you're getting die every single day. You're using as many as you can. You're spending much more time on the actions that don't advance any sort of goals, just because you want to keep your sleeper at maximum condition. And you're just spinning plates to make sure your sleeper doesn't die, instead of engaging with the game as much, which happens, but it's not terrible.
I'd like to talk about one more thing.
Yes, go for it.
So I think the game wants you to feel like your original human, like the one who created the sleeper, is a bad person, right? Like they put sleeper into the situation. But I'm not sure that your original person has any ethical responsibility towards sleeper.
I think I agree with that.
Say more.
So to my mind, it's almost like, and I bear with me, I thought this about in the shower, 20 minutes before we got on air. But to my mind, it's almost like surrogacy. So, like, I think just based on the way we've set up a surrogate situation, it's not really the surrogate's responsibility to ensure that the future child is well cared for. Instead, there's an apparatus and a system set up in place to ensure, that child is going to a good situation. So I think by blaming the person, you've deflected blame from a system that is the issue. In the same way that, like, when we make littering into a personal issue, as opposed to saying, like, no, why don't plastic manufacturers make their products recyclable? It's the same sort of distraction.
Yeah, I think, and the game, without fail, is turning its attention on systems.
Oh, yeah, like, obviously, the corporation is a huge villain.
Yeah, so, like, the fact that the corporations, and there are so many situations in this game where, like, a corporation is, it goes out of business, and by going out of business, it means the space station where people live doesn't get food anymore. Or, like, these people who were doing a job, well, it turns out this job is no longer been found profitable. So the body augmentations that they took on to take on this job that they were promised are now useless. They're crippling, painful augmentations for a job that no longer exists. So, like, everything is, like, the most current corporate culture turn to 11 situation. It is as cyberpunk dystopia, but way more thoughtful than a lot of cyberpunk stuff we've dealt with. This is probably the best cyberpunk thing we played for the game, for the show.
As I said before the show started, this might be the first successful cyberpunk story we've seen on the show.
I definitely can't think of any others.
We finally got there.
Yeah, we played a lot. We played a lot of cyberpunk stuff.
We've tried so many times, and each time it's like, not quite.
Like you tried, but
almost there. But not Cloudpunk.
That one was just bad. That was the taxi one, right?
Yeah, we didn't like that one
Yeah.
so much.
That was just bad.
That one did a lot of what it had a lot of character archetypes you see in this game, but executed poorly.
Yes.
And the New Yorker fucking loved that one.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
why?
I can't believe the New Yorker would like something that has high aspirations, but maybe didn't execute it super well.
I wonder what they thought of
Especially
this one.
I'm sure
I didn't even play
if
it.
they lost their shit over Cloudpunk, this is the real shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is what Cloudpunk was trying to do from a commentary perspective.
This is like Citizen Kane. I guess Citizen
Citizen
Sleeper
Cloudpunk.
Yeah.
Citizen Sleeper's the name, damn it.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's
Trying
right
to think
there.
Something
Fuck
like
it
a
up.
pun.
Citizen Sleeper is the Citizen Kane of Cyberpunk.
Of Cloudpunks.
games. Yeah.
That's an episode title. Citizen Sleeper is the Citizen Kane of Cloudpunks.
Got it. Back
All
in.
right. So, Pete, did you have any other thoughts on that?
No. Like I said, I'm still trying to flesh it out, but like I don't think, like maybe the person who was like the original human, it would have been nice of them to be like, what is this sleeper's life going to be like? But if we're just talking about pure ethical responsibility, I don't think they have any.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where we're almost certain that the person who chooses to become the imprint for a sleeper is in a bad
Yeah,
situation.
they're not doing this because their life's going great.
They're not like, please put me in a tube and put me to sleep for 100 years so
Yeah.
that, I can pay off this debt because I'm
Things
into
are
it.
too good. Yeah, things are too good. Maybe they'll be even better in the future. I don't know. So
I got one more thing.
Mhm.
The trans allegory in this game. Hoo boy.
Which one?
Just the sleeper as like a being who is uncomfortable in the body that it's in.
Mhm.
The put into a strange thing that is not yours, that you are aware is not yours.
is there does the, what's it called? I've already forgotten now. What does sleeper need to maintain their condition?
Stabilizer.
Stabilizer. Is there a way to map stabilizer onto something like hormones, or is that ham-fisted of me?
I mean, it's coming from a corporation, which seems antithetical to.
That's a good point.
Well, I hate to break it to you where most hormones come
I
from.
mean, yeah, but like, it's not as. I feel like actually doing it yourself and making like mushroom hormone equivalent is like, that's the future the liberals want to see in this world, as the meme goes.
Like you could see Ron DeSantis like looking at that and be like, "No way, never."
We gotta get rid of all the mushrooms now. Outlaw mushrooms.
These mushrooms make you gay, and we can't have that.
Unfortunate, because everyone on this space station is eating mushrooms, because that's the only thing
Yep.
that grows here.
Yep. Yeah, and I will say, like, the game also has like multiple trans representations, multiple gay relationships,
Bunch
like
of queer characters, absolutely.
But yeah, the game has like 20 characters, and a large portion of them are of diverse backgrounds and gender orientations.
Except for white man Ethan. Fuck you.
That's why another reason he sucks.
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, that's Citizen Sleeper.
Good game.
This was a good pick, Em.
Yeah.
Great pick.
Absolutely.
Year of Bangers continues unabated.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see if we can trip it up.
Sonic.
Only you, dear listener, can stop this. Subscribe to the Patreon and make us play Sonic 06. I've seen some footage of Sonic 06. It's worse than I thought it was, y'all.
I've seen
Hasn't
one
aged
piece of
well.
footage from Sonic 06.
I'm now scared of it. I thought that the girl kissing was the part that would be the funniest and the most off-putting. It looks as though that is the high water mark.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that is it for Citizen Sleeper. I think it is my pick.
It is
Again?
your pick, Gino.
It's my pick. So I don't know if my PC is going to work for a while. So I need it to
Okay.
not be a PC game. It has to be a console game. And I feel like, this is a year where we're trying to play good games. And I think that it's also a year where, it's a time. Listeners of this show are familiar with the fact that we often start games in the series with the second game.
It's true. Well known.
Well known. We skip the first game. We say to hell with that, and then we jump straight into the second game. I'm going to buck that trend. I'm going to
Mhm.
pick a sequel to a game that we actually played the first game of.
Holy
What?
shit.
Yeah,
Unheard of.
I'm going to pick the sequel to a game we played the first one.
Is it like recent enough that we'll even remember it?
Probably not.
Okay. I mean, that's close then.
It's
Probably
kinda
not. We're just going to be like, where am I?
boring.
What's going on?
Right.
Against my better judgment, I think I want to play Mass Effect 2.
Holy shit.
Haven't we played 3?
No, we played 1.
Oh, all right. I thought we did 1 and 3, but I'm confused. Let's do 2.
I think we just did 1. We might have done 3, but then we definitely haven't done 2.
We definitely haven't.
I think I want to see if that game holds up, because when we played Dragon Age Origins, it very much did not.
No,
Shoot.
it did not.
That was the racist one, right?
Was it racist?
No, what was the racist one ZP picked?
Oh, that was Dragon. Oh, dang it!
Was
Oh,
One of
it
the
was
most
another
racist
BioWare game.
games.
Was it
One of the most
Dragon
racist
Commander?
games we ever played.
No, it wasn't Dragon Commander. It
that didn't have any.
it was an
similar
early
to it.
BioWare game. It was the BioWare game before Mass Effect, before KOTOR.
Right.
Damn it! It was for the Xbox. It was not very good. It was very racist.
They made up a vaguely Asian-sounding language as
Jade
opposed to
Empire.
just using
Jade
Jade
Empire.
Empire. even has a racist name.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I like
I
Mass
wanna go
Effect
back in.
too.
I know I think most of us have played it and we liked it. I want to go back in. Let's find out. Let's keep this cyber train going.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Are we gonna play the regular version or the legendary edition? Whatever the fuck difference it makes.
Dealer's choice. I think the only difference with the Legendary Edition is that it comes with all the DLC.
Oh, okay. The DLC is good for that game.
It is. So I don't think we have to play the DLC unless you want to. Like, play whatever you want. Play as much of it as you want.
I'm gonna play
Okay.
it because I like Kasumi.
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool. So next time up, we're playing Mass Effect 2, the second Mass Effect game. Thankfully, it was the last one they ever made. So
Mass
they
Effect
ended on a
3
high note.
wasn't terrible.
That's true. But Mass Effect Andromeda, though,
Yeah. I was gonna pick that
Yeah.
one sometime.
one day we'll pick that one. But today's not that day. Well, thank you, M.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to revisiting one of my favorite BioWare games. Please don't ruin this for me.
Thank you, Pete.
Yep. Always excited to talk about anti-capitalist sci-fi. One of my major passions in life.
And thank you, dear listener. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections. deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com is our email. And patreon.com/deeplistens. That is where you can support the show. Please do donate if you can to the National Network of Abortion Funds. Until next time, peace.